At one time, the greater part of the Chittagong Hill Tracts was covered with dense tropical and subtropical forests. The indigenous peoples of the region used to cultivate swidens or jhum on a rotational basis. Traditionally, large trees were never cut down, and the same land was not cultivated again before a fallow period of at least 15 to 20 years. Land was abundant and the population was small. There was no need to distinguish between swidden land and forest. Any patch of forest could be cut, dried, burnt and cultivated through the swidden method for rice, cotton, vegetables and fruit. Once left fallow, the swidden plot regenerated into a forest again. Gradually the situation changed. The population and numbers of settlements, markets and towns grew. During the 1870s, the British colonial government converted vast tracts of natural forest into monoplantations of teak by importing saplings and seeds from nearby Burma. The large forests and plantations were redesignated as reserved forests and given over to the new Department of Forest for management and protection. Even today, a quarter of the Hill Tracts region is classified as reserved forest and administered by the Forest Department. However, these reserved forests did not remain protected. As the human population grew, the natural vegetation and wildlife began to diminish, and many species of animals and birds became extinct. In 1960, the government of Pakistan built a large hydroelectric dam at Kaptai village. The dammed river, Konnafuli, swept away countless villages, flooded deep forests, killing thousands of animals, birds and other life forms, and dislocated tens of thousands of people. In the 1980s, the Bangladeshi government brought in a few 100,000 Bengali-speaking migrants and resettled them within the hill region. This caused massive dislocation of indigenous people and deepened the land crisis already worsened by the Kaptai Dam. The need for special measures to retain forest cover in the region was now felt even more acutely. The scarcity of lands and natural forests produced had actually begun to be felt even before the British colonial government left in 1947. Elders met to devise new ways of protecting their natural resources. The result was an innovation based upon their traditional resource management patterns to retain forest cover around their settlements for long-term use. This gave birth to the village common forests of today, which are not allowed to be cultivated for swidens or otherwise by the communities themselves. Some of these forests are as small as 40 hectares, while a few cover nearly 100 hectares. A 40-hectare forest is to be found near Mujdasora village within the Longuda sub-district of Rangamati district. Another large village forest within the same district is located near Beganasori village within Borkhor sub-district. Most forest managing communities in the Chittagong Hill Tracts depend on swidden or jhum cultivation for their primary source of livelihood. Some also cultivate wet rice paddy through the plough and irrigation method. These forests are communally managed by village communities. In some areas, the headmen of the Mosas, or traditional village elders called Kharbari, play the leading role in forest management. In some areas, elected committees manage the forests. In yet others, the Mosa headmen and village elders share management responsibilities with the committees. The Mosa forests are crucial for the welfare of village communities. They supply the villagers with timber, bamboo and thatch grass for house building. Some also contain herbaria for medicinal plants and herbs that are still widely used by village shamans.
Lorisori baro koro boy tero. Onyo daru ye nadori le edarugon dore buro buro hoda zorazor buro buro. Uzi bani kadebo, singorani gozi haibo. Tep matro ek pot.
The villagers also supplant their food items by hunting, trapping, fishing and gathering in these forests. Headwaters and sources of many rivers, streams and springs are also located within these forests, some of which are considered to be sacred. These forests are therefore crucial for the social, economic, ecological and spiritual needs of indigenous society. Happy and her family live in Mujdasura. Happy read up to the 10th grade before she married and came to live in this village. Their family are basically Swedeners or Jumias. The Jum harvest was poor last year and the family doesn't expect their rice to last them longer than 6 months. Happy is keen to have her children receive a good education. However, the nearest secondary school is quite far away, as is the health clinic. Happy told the visiting people from the local NGO Taungya that health workers and other government people never visited their village. Sobina lives next door to Happy. Sobina's family plant a lot of turmeric in order to sell it in the market. After boiling and drying, a kilo of turmeric can fetch as much as 30 takas. Some 20 kilometers southeast of Mujdasura, going up the Konnafuli or Big River, lies the village of Beganasuri within Borkol sub-district. Nearby is a 75-hectare forest common. Sonamuni and Pratibha live here. Talking to members of Taungya, Pratibha reminisced about their love life.
Sete manje jumputo kudaranga sitik agun seni. Badai grande unso miline mili. Dai dur kodot doni ras kodot. Ene amari dur ras kodot bije. Sasa sadguri dilo dia. Badai dur bere yo thara berandi. Ami je ikuni je ke adar bas nauri hetia.
During the last part of British rule, the government took note of the hill villages' innovative form of forest management. It formally recognized these practices and promulgated a new law, making the Mosa headmen responsible for demarcating and protecting Mosa forest reserves and, where necessary, to restrict or prevent swidden cultivation by residents and newcomers alike. This was in 1939 when the new Rule 41A of the Hill Tracts Regulations was passed. Then in 1965, the district officer issued a notification to remind headmen of their responsibilities of Mosa forest protection. However, from thence onward until today, the government has not issued any policy guidelines or taken other steps to help protect these forests. This is contrary to the national forest policy. In 2003, the NGO Taungya undertook a pilot project with the support of the government of Denmark to help protect these Mosa forests. The major objectives of the project are to prevent an inventory of Mosa reserves within the Hill Tracts region, to help Mosa forest communities strengthen themselves organizationally, to help the villagers obtain formal title over their forests, to remove discrimination against women generally and in forest management, and to strengthen the self-dependent initiatives and practices of the villagers. Taungya is quite aware that it will not be possible to fulfill all of these objectives within 2 years. Therefore, Taungya is already analyzing the available information and experience of the villagers and that of the NGO's workers to expand its advocacy work for another 3 to 4 years. Of course, this will only be possible with the consent and the cooperation of the village communities concerned. A year has passed since Taungya undertook this project. Taungya's members and workers visited a number of Mosa forest areas and sought the opinion of the villagers regarding the ongoing project. The villagers were unanimous in their opinion about continuing the project for a few years more.
তারা থাকবে তার চতুর্দিকে অবশ্যই নিরাপদ রাখতে হবে এটা হচ্ছে এখানে মালিক কেউ না মালিক সবাই
Taungya believes in respecting the self-determination of the village communities regarding their own affairs. At the same time, Taungya holds a strong position with regard to removing gender inequity. Therefore, Taungya is happy that a number of Mosa forest committees have included women as full members for the very first time.
committee ye chot mile somut committee chen bari doloi